Hello and welcome to the Not Too Shabby Shop YouTube channel. My name is Lynn, or LV Handcrafted here on YouTube, and today I'm crafting again with the stamp and die of the month called Turkey Day. I love all of these little turkeys. As soon as I got this stamp set, I stamped them all out, some of them multiple times, and colored them all in because these turkeys, I just love their big heads. They're just so adorable. So I'm making a joy fold card today, but a little bit differently than I've made it in the past. And I actually learned this particular way to do the joy fold from a mystery craft along that I participated in. So my card base is going to be in two sections. Both of these have been cut out of 120-pound white heavyweight cardstock. The larger of the two pieces is cut to 4¼ by 6¼ and along that 6¼ inch edge I've scored at 2 inches, and that's going to be that little 2-inch flap there. That's going to be the bottom. The smaller of the two is cut to 3 inches by 6 inches, and along the 6-inch edge, I've scored and folded that in half, so at the 3-inch mark. And that's going to be the little mini card. If you're familiar with a joy fold card, I've always made these so that the flaps are folding to the left and right. I've never made one where the flaps are opening from top to bottom. So this is super cute, and when it all does fold down, it will ultimately be a square card that measures 4¼ inches square. And I've just done some simple mats and layers. These are actually double mats, so I'm using some gorgeous pattern papers. Really, these are kind of scraps that I've chosen because the card itself is actually fairly small. So you probably can raid your scrap bin to get everything that you need out of your scraps to create this card. That's exactly what I've done. And here I have this set of pattern papers that will be the matte layers on that bottom 2-inch section. So this has been cut to 4 1/8 by 1 7/8. So it's just a very thin matte layer. You'll see a little bit of the cardstock, but the card base, but not a ton. And I decided to just put some really pretty ribbon down the center of this. The pattern paper has been cut to the same width, so you don't see any of the green cardstock, but it's slightly shorter. So that's been cut to 1¾ inch by 4 1/8. And I don't think I gave the mats and layers for the top portion. So that's a square piece that's been cut to 4 1/8 inch square for the solid color cardstock, and then 4 inches square for the pattern papers. And I tied myself a little bow here, but I don't think I'll put it on this stretch of ribbon because the top flap, the little mini flap, needs to fold over it. So I'm just going to let this be just the plain stretch of ribbon, and then I'll go back and find another spot for the bow that I tied because I think it coordinates really well and it'll help bring that ribbon to another section of our card. So with this square piece here, which is the smaller of the two squares is 2 inches by 2 inches, and then the matte layer behind it is 2 1/8 by 2 1/8. And I decided that this is where I want to put my sentiment. So from the stamp and die set this month, you do get all of these really adorable turkeys and fall themed images, but you also get a couple of sentiments as well. So I chose Give Thanks, which I'm not patient enough to wait for this to dry since I did use my pigment VersaFine Black. So if you're ever in that position and you just don't want to wait, but you don't want to risk smearing that you're stamping, you can always clear heat emboss. And it takes a few seconds, and then it not only will make it so that you don't have to risk smearing your sentiment, but it also gives it a really nice glossy shine too. So it's a lovely finish. And what I'll do is I thought that I might attach it to that white portion on the inside of the card, but I still want somewhere to sign the card. So I realized I put too much glue onto this, but that almost works out better because then I can add this little scrap piece of cardstock, and that neatens up the back of this little panel as well. The pattern paper behind there is still coordinated just fine, so I think that would have looked okay, but now it looks white and just matches the inside of the card as well. So that gets our second flap nice and decorated with our sentiment. Now to focus on the front of the card. So this panel here, the larger of the two mats, is cut to 7 1/8 by 2 7/8 by 2 7/8, and the pattern paper is cut to 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. So very, very thin white border of the card base is going to be visible. And as you can see, because I've chosen to use heavyweight cardstock for my card base, the two folds do tend to want to kind of spring open. But what I'll do in a moment here is I'm going to use a couple of these acorns, and I'm going to put that in the bottom right corner, and they're going to actually serve to be a little bit of a stopper. First, though, I'm going to just re-burnish all of my folds, and that can sometimes help your card lay flat. If you burnish very aggressively, even a thick cardstock will fold flat. But because I have so many mats and layers of cardstock, and I have the two folds that are folding on top of each other, I decided that I'm going to need a little bit more than a firm burnish to get these folds to lay flat. So I'll go ahead and position my turkey. He fits perfectly in this little panel here, and he's super darling, and I chose the one that's holding the pumpkin, so it really goes well with all of the different pattern papers and colors that I've chosen. And this bow here I'll attach with a little glue dot. I only have glue dots that are 1/2 inch, so I just folded that in 4, and that way I get a smaller little glue dot that can help to secure that down. And now to create a little bit of a, I don't know what you would call this, maybe it's a little bit of a kind of a locking mechanism, but all I've done is just attach 2 acorns. And what I'll do is use my Kalau 3D glue gel, and I'm just going to put glue at the bottom portion of my acorns. And so these are going to be kind of a little tuck spot so that that top flap can tuck in behind. And I don't want to overlap too much because I don't want to make it super hard to open this. But I also need it to overlap enough so that it holds down that flap. And my glue gel isn't quite dry yet, so I'm not going to actually tuck this in just yet. But that's a little trick that you can use if ever you have a flap that tends to want to spring open. You can just create a little tuck spot to keep that down. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing. And here are a couple more videos you might enjoy. Thanks so much. Until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye.